Xaviere XT750. At least I think that's what this model is. The model number was printed on a fairly thick piece of card that was only partially adhered inside there, and it buzzed constantly, so I pulled it out. But this guitar has much bigger problems than that. This is like an airplane takeoff ramp here. So something's going on here. Everything's fretting out up here. So it's not a very straight neck. The rest of it's nice. The truss rod seems to be working. Well, this is working. But from here on up, it's unplayable. There was a crack, a hairline crack in the white enamel. I suspected that the guitar had fallen over and landed heavily or something, and I wasn't sure if the glue joint had broken or what was going on. So I've cleaned this away just so I could have a decent look underneath the crack. And as I look through here, well, let's see if we can make this happen. Got a little flashlight, and as you look through here with the flashlight, you can see that there's light on the other side of that thing. And as we come around, it's worse on this side. So there's daylight in there, but you can see where it's been fitted into the block inside the body of the guitar. So the glue could have given away. The neck doesn't seem to want to go anywhere, but I'm not comfortable with it. Well, I put a lot of heat in here, and that fingerboard does not want to come off. I took the binding off the end here just so I could see what was happening, and I pulled the frets out. It was probably going to need a reshaping, a re-radiusing of the fingerboard anyway. But a lot of heat was going into the frets, and so I pulled them off, put the heat direct on here, got a lot of heat in there, and that thing ain't budging. It is, I don't know what they've used. But this was a $200 guitar, and so the question for me is, do I want to start getting extravagant and drill holes in here and put heat sticks in there and try, I could be here for a week on this thing. I've got a good flashlight here, I can see right down inside there. And there seems to be hardly any glue in there at all, and what there is, I've cleaned out with my trusty knife and with, some 320 sandpaper. It's pretty clean in there, so I'm going to cheat on this one. I am going to put some glue in there, just white glue. I'm going to clamp it up so that it's good and tight. So I have the frets out. I've cleaned up the fretboard, the fingerboard a little bit. Not much, just to clean off stuff and take a look at it. And I've straightened the neck. I've taken the relief out of it. And on the right hand side here, you can see that there's no light shining through under there. It's pretty much dead flat this side, which is great. But as I move it over to the other side, you can see that there is, well, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there it is. You see that there's kind of quite a dip here between like the 12th and the 7th fret, and then up this end where we're tight again. So meanwhile this side looks great. So the twist there is on the left hand side, and I'm going to have to spend time taking material mostly off the mostly down this side here and get that nice and straight. You want to do this with the neck as flat as you can get it with your truss rod. If you leave a relief in here and you reshape your fingerboard and you try to then tension up your truss rod at any point to straighten the neck, or you do it trying to get rid of fret buzz later on, you'll have nowhere to go. So you want to do this when the neck is at its most straight as you can get it. And so that meant for me tightening up the truss rod a little bit so it lifted up the center of the neck, and that's how I've got it dead straight down this side. Not so good on the other side, but we'll see what we can do with a radiusing block. Okay, so I have finished sanding this neck. I've taken the twist out of it as far as I can tell. I could take more, but I don't want to. It's going to be fine. Right now I have the relief, I have the tension taken off the truss rod, so I've got a little dip in there, and it's exactly how I wanted it to be, so that when those frets are seated I'll have to do as little crowning as possible. And as we come down the neck, I put in what we call fall away, what is known as fall away here. Not much, you know, a millimeter, which is quite a lot really, so that you know, if this neck lifts again at some point, this is the point where if it lifts, that stuff of course becomes too high. Those frets up the top of the neck there become too high. So a little fall away just gives you a bit more lifespan. And I used a 150 grit actually that I put on my leveling beam. This has been an okay leveling beam. It's kind of a budget model and it seems to work fine, and it's very level. Getting the sandpaper off here is a bit of a trick to it, and getting the glue off, I'll tell you how I did it, because it's a pain in the ass to get off, and I had to try a bunch of things, and ended up with nail polish thinner. Acetone wouldn't get the gum off that the manufacturers had used under here. So nail polish thinner is kind of an acetone base, whatever it is. Did a great job. It just sort of melted it right off super easy, really quickly. So handy stuff to have. And so I used 150 to take the twist out of the fingerboard. Then went to a 320 to get the scratches out, and then polished it with 800 grit. And I'm very pleased with the way that came out. And tomorrow is another day, and I will start installing the frets then. Just by the way, I also recommend having a set of radius guides. The radius on this neck seemed to be 14 inches, and I checked that pretty thoroughly before I started cleaning it up. I didn't actually use a curved radius block on this. I eyeballed it, and I used my radius gauges here, you know, going up the neck, so you can always tell, you know, if there are any high spots. And you can, you know, it's quite a successful method to eyeball it, you know, as long as you've got a deft touch with the sandpaper. And so that's a must-have, and you don't actually have to have a radiusing block. And I didn't want to get one for a 14-inch. I've got a 12-inch one because I seem to have a lot of 12-inch radiuses come my way. I'm halfway through the refret here. I'm using the StewMac call press. I find this works a treat. I might modify a drill press at some point, but you know, this really works. It seats the frets beautifully. I've crowned and polished the frets. Gave them a final polish with steel wool. Pretty much all that's left to do here is reinstall the nut, get the right string height, install the bridge for the right intonation, and fire her up. Yeah, looking down the neck, it looks like that twist has been dealt with really well. So we'll see once I've got it strung up, but I'm very happy with the way this is looking. I'm at the point of doing the setup now on this. I put some oil on the fingerboard just to give the wood a drink. And there's another problem with this. That is that this is not sitting. You know, when I press down one side on this bridge, the other side has, you know, it's rocking. This works a treat. It's just taking, you know, probably not much more than a millimeter or so off the center here, so the whole thing sits flat, or flush, I should say, with the top of the guitar. I'd say mission accomplished.